Here at Skara Brae, the tempest was so ferocious that the power of the wind and the waves ripped up the grassy earth from the top of a large group of sand dunes called Skara Brae.
A giant wave crashed against the Scottish coast and ripped the grass right off the ground to reveal a door that had been shut for 50 centuries. This was the start of a mystery that has left experts shaking their heads in fear and confusion ever since.
It is believed the village was inhabited around 3180 to 2500 BC, before the pyramids of Giza were even built, or even Stonehenge was built.
We are talking about a village older than the pyramids that has indoor plumbing and stone furniture that still works. And get this, the deeper scientists dig, the more they realize that something very strange was happening on this island. The crazy part is how perfectly everything was left behind for us to find. Buried secrets of the Orkney Sands. In 1850, a storm so big it felt like the end of the world ripped across the Orkney Islands. These islands sit off the northern coast of Scotland and are known for being cold, windy, and very rough. When the winds finally stopped blowing, the local people walked out to see the damage, and they saw something impossible. An entire village was peeking out from a giant sand dune that had kept it a secret for over 4,000 years. The crazy part is that the houses were not just piles of rocks, but were still fully shaped and standing tall. This was the discovery of Skara Brae, and it is hands down the most well-kept ancient site in the world. But as scientists started to walk through those small stone doorways, they realized that something was very wrong with the history books. The village was built between 3,180 and 2,500 years before the Common Era. To give you an idea of how old that is, it means people were living here before the Great Pyramid of Giza was even a thought. But here is the catch. The people who lived here did not have metal. They did not have bronze or iron or even simple saws. They only had rocks, bones, and deer antlers to work with. Yet they built walls that are 10 feet thick. They used a very smart way of stacking flat stones so they would lock together without any glue or mud. So here is the deal. Modern walls usually fall apart after 100 years, but these have lasted for 45 centuries. When you look at the stones, the gaps between them are tiny, sometimes only a fraction of an inch. This takes a level of math that we did not think people had back then. If you place one stone wrong, the whole roof falls in. But none of these roofs fell down until the sand covered them up. An engineer named Dr. Sarah Paxton looked at the site a few years ago and said we could not even build this today with just hand tools. It would take a team of master workers years to get this much precision. Basically, we are looking at a level of genius that was supposed to be impossible for farmers who lived so long ago. What makes it even more chilling is how the village feels when you stand in it. It does not feel like a grave or a ruin, it feels like a home. You can see the central fire pit where they cooked their meals. You can see the stone dressers where they kept their plates. It is like everyone just stood up and walked away in the middle of their day. The crazy part is that everything is still exactly where they left it thousands of years ago. There is no evidence of a slow decay or a village that was struggling to survive. It was a thriving place that was suddenly just done. Scientists are now wondering if we have been lied to about what ancient people could do. If they could build this on a tiny island in the middle of a storm, what else were they capable of? The more we look at the walls, the more we see tiny details that show they knew exactly what they were doing with the weight of the stone. And that's putting it lightly, because the weight of those 10-foot walls is enough to crush anything underneath if the foundation isn't perfect. They even knew how to keep the salt from the ocean from eating away at the rock. The buildings are all connected by tunnels that are covered with stone roofs. This means people could go to their neighbor's house without ever having to step outside into the freezing rain or the snow. It is a planned community that was thought out before the first stone was ever laid. What most people don't realize is that this kind of planning didn't show up again for thousands of years. Will we ever find the blueprints hidden deep beneath the cold Scottish dirt? Stone Age blueprints, found in granite. If you think the walls are amazing, you have to look at what is underneath the floorboards. The crazy part is that these ancient homes actually had a working sewer system. We are talking about stone-lined drains that ran under the village to carry waste away from where people lived. This is something we usually only see in much later places like Rome. They used flat slabs of rock to make the pipes and angled them perfectly so the water would flow away. This required a deep understanding of how water moves and how to keep things clean. They even had waterproof tanks built into the floors. These tanks were lined with clay and were so well made that they can still hold water today. So here's the deal. These people were keeping shellfish alive in seawater right inside their homes to use as bait for fishing. This shows they were not just surviving, but they were thinking ahead and making their lives easier. Each house in the village followed the same floor plan. There was always a dresser facing the door, a fire in the middle, and beds on the sides. This kind of matching design suggests that there was one leader or one architect who told everyone how to build. Basically, it was the first housing development in human history, and it was built with nothing but rocks. Inside the houses, the furniture is all made of stone because there were no trees on the island. They made stone beds with high sides that they filled with soft plants to sleep on. They made stone cupboards with shelves to show off their best items. And get this, the beds were positioned in a way to catch the most heat from the fire so no one would freeze at night. It is a level of comfort that most people in 1850 did not even have. Scientists found necklaces made of ivory and bone left on the floor, and even strange carved stone balls that are perfectly round. These stone balls are a huge mystery because making a perfect circle out of hard rock with just another rock is nearly impossible. Some of them have exactly 6 bumps on them in a perfect pattern. This is high-level geometry that we usually learn in high school, but these people were doing it 5,000 years ago. The crazy part is that we still have no idea what these balls were used for. Were they for a game or were they tools for building? Some people think they might have been used to move the giant stones that make up the circles nearby. But there is something even more terrifying about the way these houses were built. What most people don't realize is that the village was built on top of a giant pile of trash called a midden. This trash pile actually helped keep the houses warm and protected them from the wind. It acted like insulation for the stone walls. This shows they understood how to use their environment to stay alive in a place where the wind can blow at over 100 miles per hour. Hands down, these were the smartest engineers of the ancient world. Even though the village is tiny, with only about 50 to 100 people living there, it was a hub of activity. They were farming, fishing, and making art all at the same time. The precision of the stone cutting is so good that you cannot even slide a knife between some of the joints. And that's putting it lightly, because those joints have stayed tight even after being pounded by waves for centuries. Could there be an even older city buried right under the feet of the researchers? Forgotten lives left behind in stone. The most haunting thing about Skara Brae is the way it was left behind. When archaeologists first started digging, they found things that people would never leave if they were moving out slowly. They found ivory pins for clothes and even bowls that still had traces of food in them. The crazy part is that it looks like a scene from a movie where everyone just disappears into thin air. There are no bodies found in the houses, so it was not a war or a sickness that took them all out at once, but they left behind their most valuable tools and jewelry. Usually when people leave a village, they take the good stuff with them. They take their beds, their pots, and their tools. But at Skara Brae, it is all still there. Some people think a massive sandstorm hit the island and people had to run for their lives before they were buried alive. But here's the catch. There is no evidence of a big disaster like a volcano or an earthquake. The village was just left to be claimed by the sand and the wind. For 500 years, the village stood empty and open to the air before the sand finally covered it up. Basically, it survived the worst weather on Earth for 5 centuries without any help. Recent studies from 2025 using special radar have shown that there is more to the village than we can see. There are shapes of other buildings buried much deeper in the ground. So, here is the deal. The village we see might just be the top layer of a much older and bigger city. If there are older houses underneath, it means these people were living there for a very, very long time. But we are not allowed to dig that deep because it might ruin the site. This means the biggest secrets of Skara Brae are still locked away under the dirt. Scientists have also looked at other sites nearby, like the Ring of Brodgar. This is a massive circle of stones that is 341 feet across. The crazy part is that the circle is a perfect round shape. To make a circle that big and that perfect, you need to know a lot about math and how to measure long distances. These stones weigh up to 16 tons each and were moved from miles away. How did a small village of farmers move stones that heavy without wheels? Hands down, they had a secret way of moving things that we still haven't figured out yet. There is also a tomb nearby that has a long tunnel. On the shortest day of the year, the sun shines perfectly down that tunnel and hits the back wall. This shows they were watching the stars and the sun with incredible accuracy. What most people don't realize is that their calendar was just as good as ours is today. They knew exactly when the seasons were changing and when to plant their food. It is terrifying to think that all this knowledge was lost for thousands of years until we found this village. The more we look, the more we see that these people were connected to other groups far away. They found pots that look like ones found in other parts of Britain. And that's putting it lightly, because it means people were traveling over the dangerous ocean to share ideas. But then, around 2,500 years before the Common Era, all the building stopped. The knowledge of how to make these stone houses and how to track the sun just vanished. What if the people didn't leave but were actually taken by something we can't explain? Now we have to talk about the things that really scare the researchers who spend time at Skara Brae. There is a strange feeling in the air when you walk through the tunnels. The crazy part is that the village was designed to be almost completely dark inside. With no windows and only a small hole in the roof for smoke, these people lived in the shadows. They spent their lives in these small stone rooms, listening to the wind howl outside. Some people think they were hiding from something, but we don't know what that could be. In 2024, an AI looked at the layout of the village and found that the distances between the houses follow a very specific pattern. Basically, the whole village is a giant math puzzle that we are only just now starting to solve. It is not just a bunch of houses, it is a machine for watching the world. But why would a small group of farmers need a village that works like a computer? It makes you wonder if they were the ones who came up with the ideas, or if someone else taught them how to do it. What do you think happened to the people who built this impossible village? Was it a sudden storm that chased them away, or was it something much darker hiding in the tunnels? Let me know your best theories in the comments, and make sure to like and subscribe for more mysteries.